Welcome to the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast with your host, Julie C. Butler. If you're looking to build the business of your dreams, then this is the space you want to be in. Join Julie as she talks about ways that you can successfully scale your profitable dream business, one that will give you ultimate time freedom and the abundant lifestyle you deserve. Julie will take you by the hand, sharing with you her business savvy strategies as she chats it up with her favorite online entrepreneurs. You'll get a weekly dose of boosted confidence as you learn as they reveal their insight, tips, and tools that you need to start building a profitable dream business of your own, one that you'll love and that works for you on autopilot.
Hey there, welcome back to the BBB podcast. Today on the show, we have the beautiful Lindsay Dollinger. Lindsay is a women's business coach, podcast host of the Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast, high school Spanish teacher, rescue dog mama, and Disney lover. She helps women with productivity and strategy to grow their businesses while also working full-time. Hey there, and welcome back to the show. I'm excited to have Lindsay with us. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like we just talked not too long ago.
We did. I feel like it was maybe like 2 weeks ago, if that. Yeah.
I know. It's so cool, though, to be able to, you're a speaker at my summit, and now we're doing podcast interviews. And then, it's cool how you can continue the relationship, right?
Yeah. I love it. I love the online community that is out there for women entrepreneurs if we just tap into it. It's so fun.
It is really fun. And it just makes building a business so much more like it feels like you're doing this with other people,
Yeah. It's that community feel. And it's one of the pieces that if I ever do decide to leave my full-time job, I always am nervous about leaving like my community at my workplace. But I also get to remember that I am also building an amazing community with my online entrepreneur friends. And now that we are back into the world of, in-person conferences and retreats and travel and all that stuff again, I know it'll be fine. Like it'll be there. That community aspect will be there no matter what. So I think that's really nice.
I love that you say that because you have a full-time job still. And I know because we're trying to book these interviews and stuff like that around your work schedule.
Yeah.
And something that you love doing. So anyways, I'm just gonna let you share a little bit about yourself before we dive into what we're here to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So I am Lindsay Dollinger. I am in Ohio in the United States. And as Julie mentioned, I am still working full time. I am a high school Spanish teacher. I have been teaching in the classroom for 15 years. And how long ago would it have been now? About 8 years ago, I decided to join a network marketing company. At the same time, I started a travel blog, completely unrelated to my network marketing company, and was just kind of diving in head first to the unknown, very unknown to me, environment of online business and social media marketing, content marketing, and all the things. And I fell in love with it super quickly, ended up transitioning from being in network marketing to coaching women on building businesses online, and also started a podcast. And everything has just very naturally pivoted for me and grown for me. And so, yeah, now I'm doing that. And it's crazy. I have days where I make more in my coaching business than I do teaching for like 4 or 5 months. However, yes, I am still in the classroom for now. Maybe I will stay there. Maybe I won't. I like having the options and the flexibility to choose that because I am still very passionate about teaching. But I think the really cool thing is I have learned that for me, teaching doesn't have to be in the traditional walls of a classroom. It can also be teaching women online and in person. I love hosting retreats and conferences and things like that. And it can look different. And so that's what I am learning and allowing myself to explore that. So that's kind of the season that I'm in.
That's so cool. And I love that because there are people out there who love their jobs and they wouldn't want to quit it necessarily. They would just like to add that supplemental income, or maybe they're passionate about something else and they really want to do both. But there are ways in being able to doing it effectively so that you're not spending your time all of your time at your job or on your computer, building and running your business, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we're going to talk about today, like, building a business while working full time, but the working full time part could also be replaced with, having young children at home, or, it doesn't, you don't have to, like, if you're listening to this and you don't have a full time job, but you have other duties, or maybe you don't want to work. Maybe you want to spend like your morning doing self-care or going to the gym or doing yoga or going to the beach or whatever, and you want to, work really effectively on your business. This can apply to both scenarios. So, but productivity systems and strategies to streamline the process is key here, right, Lindsay?
Yep, sorry. I was keeping myself muted because my dog wants attention right now, and I'm afraid she's going to bark, and then it wouldn't unmute. But yes, you are 100% correct. And it's so interesting you said that, because a big thing for me this entire time has been freedom. I want the freedom to choose where I work, when I work, how much money I make. And that's actually part of the reason I started pivoting out of the network marketing. Was I wanted complete control over my business. I think network marketing is great and fabulous, and I won't ever say anything bad about it. But I got to that point where I was like, okay, my skill levels are here. What I really love about my business anyway is coaching other women. So I really want that freedom to be able to build the business that I love. And for me, even like my summers off from teaching, I work my business full time, but I still travel a lot. I travel abroad a lot. And so I want the freedom to build a business as well, that I can travel and have these systems set up and have myself organized and planned ahead and batched ahead in my content, so that I can actually live that life that I want to live, that lifestyle that I want to live. So yeah, this absolutely, everything that we're going to talk about today absolutely applies, whether you have a full-time job, whether it's your dream to travel full-time, whatever it is possible for you. And I think that's like hopefully the big overarching theme of what we're talking about, is just those possibilities if you plan them well.
And I think the key here is freedom of having the flexibility to do what you want, when you want, when you want, how
Yeah.
much you want. Like, if today you don't feel like working, you feel like going to the beach, well, you do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
so having the flexibility to do the things that you want to do. And, we have off days. Sometimes we just don't want to, and
Yeah.
so that's super important. The freedom, I think, if you remember anything from this, first few minutes of our conversation, it's having the freedom to do it the way you want to do it, and not the other way around. So,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So how do you set up your day so that you fit in your business, full-time job, and everything else? I mean, that could be
Great.
other
Yeah.
things too, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
All the things. Yeah. I think, and it's going to sound so simple, but just planning everything out. So on Sunday mornings is my preferred time. I like to do on the weekends, just kind of mentally. But Sunday morning, I sit down and I plan everything for the week. I look at calendars. I actually live with my sister, so I'm not married. I don't have kids. So I do want to preface with that, because a lot of times I'll hear from people, well, you're not a mom, you don't understand. Yes and no. Like, we all have things that are commitments in our lives, right? I do have a very
We
needy
really
dog.
do.
Yeah, yeah. And so just because I don't have children, I have other things that I fill in. But anyway, so I then coordinate my calendar like with my sister who I live with, and who's on dog duty when, and all those things, and I'm late this night, and who's doing dinner. It's still things that you have to plan out. That communication is totally key. So making sure you're communicating with your partner, your roommate, whomever is also involved in, your schedule for the week, who's doing what things when. But then making sure that you are spending time planning when you are going to work your business, and not just work on your business, but work in your business. And this is something that I've been working a lot recently to remind myself to do these, like your quote unquote CEO day, if you've ever heard people talk about that, or your CEO time. And I've also been working with my clients, my mastermind, about this, because it's one of the things that, especially as your business starts taking off and as you're scaling, you're going to want to put in all the time with the client work and creating all the things and the deliverables, but making sure you also have that time to, plan your visibility strategy, plan your upcoming summit, plan your email, like have some time to actually plan out the big picture in your business. So I like to do like batching or theme days. So Tuesdays, for example, is my podcast day. I record podcasts. I'm also on other podcasts on Tuesdays, and it works out super well. So for me, that idea of a theme day has worked really nicely. Some people's brain, it doesn't work like that. Some people, they just want a to-do list, finding whatever works for you, but really scheduling that in and being very intentional about that, but also scheduling in your family time, your workout time, your time to eat, because those are all things, at least if you were like me, those get pushed on the back burner sometimes when you are feeling like you're in launch mode or you're in super driven, I want to make this dream happen. You forget to take really good care of yourself. You don't want to drive an extra 15 minutes to the healthier food store. So you order in takeout or, those things those habits that will add up over time and help you not feel so great. So making sure that you're really balanced with how you're planning things out is like my number one tip.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And it's so important too. And like I don't do that, but I see how it can work really well. Like I'm like a to-do list girl. I have my to-do
Okay.
list, but I break it up. I break it up in like themes. I have my for example, podcast, and then what do I have to do for my podcast? And then my summit. And then I have a more on point to-do list that I take from the master list and I bring onto to-do list. But having theme days also works really well. And I kind of go back and forth, but I like float around from theme days and like I'm like, okay, today I need to focus on, podcast stuff. Today I need to focus on summit stuff. Whatever that looks like for you. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think that, you try it one way and then figure out your way of doing things and what works for you. But the key here and the idea, I think, is to really be able to sit down and focus, especially when we don't want to sit at our computer for 15 hours in the day. Having those focused tasks will allow us to work on purpose, on point, on the task and get it done, right? Because if you sit at your computer with no real plan, and if you didn't plan out your week, like you talked about, and you just sit there and you can like, I've spent days, Lindsay, just kind of like mosey on, from here to here to here. And then at the end of the day, it's like, what have you done today? I don't even know.
Oh yeah. We've all fallen into that 100%.
Right.
And I just realized I didn't actually answer your question because you said, how do I set my day up? I was just telling you about my week. So one thing that I do to help me with that, Julie, because I have totally done that too, where I open up my computer and then I'll do like 15 minutes of an email and then I'll get distracted and respond to another one. And I I'm all over the place, squirrel brain, is I like to write down every day my top 3 priorities for the day for working my business. And some days that's like a really broad thing. And some days it's like super specific. Like today, one of mine was fill out a summit speaker like input form that I had been putting off since Friday. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting this. So like that was my number one thing to do today. Number 2 was creating content. Number 3 was uploading. And so like creating content, that's obviously pretty broad. But my list that said, fill out Haley's speaker form, that was very, very direct and very specific. So I find that if I do that in the mornings and I know ahead of time, and actually sometimes I do it the night before, like tomorrow's top 3 are this. If I do it the night before, it kind of helps my brain shut off and I know that I don't need to be worrying about things. Otherwise, I will wake up in the middle of the night or I'll be trying to fall asleep and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to remember to fill out Haley's form tomorrow. And I'm like, that is not healthy for anyone, right? And so, yeah, setting reminders for those things or just making your to-do list the night before so you know what you're going to dive into the next day. So when you get up, do I actually need to open my computer or like, what's my game plan for today? How do I get to show up for the day? Is a huge tip that I have. So I do that. And then when I'm working my 9 to 5, I obviously go to my 9 to 5, get home. And I'll usually take care of my dog, go for a walk, decompress. I like to do a workout then. I find that the workout kind of separates teacher Lindsay from like business hat owner Lindsay, which is a nice energy release. So I do that. And then I dive into my business. I usually work for half an hour, I might do a one-on-one call if I do one, and then I will break that up. So I'd like to break my tasks up as much as possible. I'm not one of those, I don't know if you know your human design. I'm a projector. Do you know yours?
A
Are you,
generator.
I was gonna say, are you a generator? So you can sit down and like bust out like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of work in one sitting. For me, if I do more than 2 or 3 hours, my brain is like fried. So that's why, because I know that about myself, I'm like, I'll do a coaching call and then I'll work out. And then I'll either do another coaching call or I do a different task and then I'm done. Like I have to shut down because I just know in those seasons where, for example, when I was growing one of my network marketing businesses, it was a clothing company. So I would get home, I would take pictures of the clothes, I would sell them and like live sales and album sales. Then I would have to package everything up, and it would be like 11, 12, 1 in the morning before I was going to bed. And then I was getting up at 5 in the morning to go teach again. And I just burn out so quickly. Like it's just, and I was pushing because I'm a very competitive person and I'm a very driven person. I'm also, my main Enneagram is an 8, but I'm a 3-1 as well. So I'm very like, I like to do the thing, I like to do other things and be a perfectionist, but I burn out really quickly. So making sure you have that awareness about yourself, whether it's your human design or whatever, just knowing yourself, like, hey, I cannot work for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours at a time. Whereas people like Julie definitely can. Now, whether she should or not is a little bit different, but she can sit and do that, and she gets refueled that way. Like that burns your fire, right? And for me, I'm like, that's hard now. Like we're not doing that. So that's why I have to split my time up.
It's funny that you say that. Speaking of human design, like I think human design is fabulous, and I think we should all look into what our human design is, because
Yeah.
like when I started learning more about it, and this is totally not an interview about human design, but it explains so much about me and how I worked and how I did the things that I did, and it
Yeah.
allowed me also to not feel guilty about certain things, and it was really eye-opening. And I
It's really cool.
understand, yeah, and I understand so much about myself and how I do things. And so, like you said, I got no problem sitting down and working for 7 hours. I
Hmm.
just I love it, but but and it's never the same every day. It's different. At like
Hmm.
12 or at like 3, my brain is like, no more.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it
You've
just kind
you've
of
reached
shuts
your
down.
limit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, and I think the cool thing with human design too, especially if you are dealing with people with any sort of service. So if you're a coach, service provider on here, if you can find out your client's human design, it's super interesting because it will help you too be a better coach and tailor, what you're providing them to them, instead of being like, hey, you should sit down and work 6, 7 hours, but you're talking to someone who's a projector, you're going to know that's not going to work. Right?
yeah. So cool. I know.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's really helpful. I think that that's really awesome. So, okay, let's talk about now, what are some commonly heard reasons why women aren't succeeding in building their businesses, and how do you respond to them? Because I'm sure that we hear that all the time. I mean, that's been us at one
Yeah.
point or not, right?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest ones is that I don't have time. Don't have time or don't have the
Right?
resources or skills. I mean, and what other, and everyone's circumstances are different. And I'm a very firm believer in seasons. So it might be a season where truly you don't have time. Like if you are taking care of a sick family member and you're working full time and you're doing something else, like this might not be the time for you to go all in your business. I like to give the example last fall, this time I was training for a marathon. And before I started training for the marathon, probably the beginning of what year was that in 2022, I was like, oh, the end of 2022, I'm going to do this big mastermind launch. As I started my marathon training, I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to have time to do that, because one of my weekdays or my weekend days, so a Saturday or Sunday, was basically spent running. And I didn't have the energy or the time, literally the time to work on my business that day like I would have liked to do. And I didn't want to do like, a launch that I wasn't able to put myself all in. So knowing those seasons, and so really being able to have that conversation with whoever it is that, you're getting that response from, is this truly a season where they don't have time, or do they just need help figuring out their time, managing their time better, being more productive, finding systems and tools that can work for them? So another thing that I hear commonly is that, people don't understand the tech, or I'm no good at social media, or I don't want to be salesy on social media. All of that is stuff is skills that can be learned from someone. So whether that is a mentor or a coach, a lot of what I learned at the very, very beginning, I found on YouTube and Google and free trainings from people. And then I got to the point after I was, slowly getting in little pieces of it and starting to understand it, that I was like, okay, I'm ready for a coach. I'm ready for either a mastermind. I joined a mastermind. I also had a one-on-one coach to really help me with the individualized stuff for me and my brand, but to take my business to the next level, because there is nothing that is stopping you. Like, there's nothing that is any different from you than me and Julie and every other woman that you are seeing out there crushing it online. We just decided to go for it. We decided to take the action and show up and make the mistakes and be uncomfortable. I mean, how many bad posts have you made, Julie? Like, let's be real. Like, if I look back at my first post on social, like, horrible, absolutely horrible. Or like the messages that I sent to people because I was really excited about what I was doing and I was trying to get them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they were so spammy. Like, they were so bad, and we all make mistakes like that, but you just have to be willing to put yourself out there and to learn from them. And as long as you really have that passion and believe in what you are doing and what your big, vision is, why you are showing up and doing what you're doing, you will succeed. I have no doubt that you will succeed, but you just have to work through that mindset of, yes, you are able to learn any skill, right? Any set of skills, you can absolutely learn it. There's no reason that you can't.
Mhm.
Those are
I
probably my
think
most common.
also, yeah, I think also if you tap into the reason why you're doing this,
Mhm.
that can really be powerful in the sense that it can really help you move past these hurdles, right?
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, they're just excuses, right?
they
They
are.
really are. And I don't want to, point the finger at anybody, but it really truly is.
Yeah.
Like, you can make excuses or you can take action,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
I think that's just a constant reminder. Just maybe you need a stronger why. Maybe you need to
Yep.
revisit the reason why you are doing this business, right? And if not,
Yeah.
it's not just about yourself too, right? Like, it's about also the how you can help your potential clients and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, they're waiting for what you have to
Right.
offer to them, right? So I think that it's
Something
just really getting past that.
something really powerful that I heard someone ask one time when talking about your why and talking about your potential clients and what happens if you don't show up for them is literally that question. What will happen if your ideal client does not find you? Like, list out the possibilities. And when I journaled about that, like, well, she might not ever start her business, or she might not be confident, or she might not find the right mentor, and all this. And I'm looking at this list and I'm like, wow, that's really powerful. Like, that's a really good reason for me to show up. um, there was something else I was going to say about that. Oh, another thing with finding your why that I have been finding a lot with my clients lately, and also kind of working through this a little bit with myself, is hearing from clients like, I really have a deep why and I understand my why and it's so big, but yet I'm still like, there's still something holding me back. And when I was thinking about that, at first I thought it was the confidence to show up, the self-confidence, but I really think it's something even deeper. I think it's like it has to do with your worthiness factor, and it's your self-worth. And I heard an amazing speaker at a conference a few weeks ago. She's writing a book called Worthy, and I can't remember her name to save my life. So I will have to come back and tell you, Julie, so you can put it in the show notes. But she was writing a book called Worthy. And so she gave this talk about the difference between self-worth and self-confidence. And it was like this light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, this is the reason, this is what is holding so many women back, is we are devaluing our self-worth and in some sort of capacity. And this could come from like childhood trauma or things that people have said to us in the past that we didn't even think bothered us, but we're like internalizing it and pushing it down really low. And so when I was really thinking about this, and again journaling on it, like, what could be the piece of my self-worth that like I am not valuing enough? And it came down to, well, I've only been a coach for 3 years, and there's all these coaches that have been coaching for 10 years or have businesses that are 8-figure businesses. And it's that comparing, and I think as women, especially, we really get to work on building up not only our self-confidence, but also that self-worth piece to remind ourselves that we are worthy of the reasons that we are going after our goals and our dreams. Because there's so many times you're like, well, I'm going after this for time freedom or, for my family, and we're attaching it to other things and other people, but really going into our core, I think is really, really powerful. And I know that's one thing I'm going to keep working on myself this next year is tapping into that self-worth piece.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things that, we can continuously work on, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be different stuff that's going to come at different times and at different levels. And I mean, it's always coming for us, right?
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
develop the skills on moving past that or moving past me, moving like learning from it and moving through it and past it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just, they say new level, new devil. So
Yeah.
every time, every new thing that you hit, every new income level or whatever the level is that you are measuring, there is something else that is going to come at you, whether it is something outwardly or inwardly, where you're having to deal with
Mm-hmm.
all your, new set of mindset issues, new set of mindset waves, money mindset, all of that fun stuff. And so definitely as you were planning your week out to wrap this back to productivity, make sure you are planning time for mindset work because it sounds so silly. It sounds so simple. I have days where I have skipped it myself or, weeks, a day turns into a week and it shows. It ends up showing up in the craziest places where you think you're doing great, you're doing fine. And then like that little demon pops in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't been showing up on social like I could have been. This is why XYZ, right? So making sure that you have time to plug into some podcasts, meditations, whatever your mindset work looks like for you. Read 10 minutes of a book. We all have time for 10 minutes of it a day. Make sure you're making that a priority.
No, exactly. Yeah, I love it. That's all good stuff. So I know that you were like, you got to the top 1% of that network marketing company just from talking to you before. And
Mm-hmm.
so what do you attribute to being able to grow your first business, your network marketing business to the top?
That's a great question. I lot lots of little pieces, but I think the main factor for me was that mindset shift and taking it from this is just a hobby to like this is 100% a business. So, and I remember exactly where I was. I was at the company's conference. I was out in the, in the audience with some of my teammates who are my friends, and we're watching this and I'm listening to speaker after speaker, and there was nothing that they were saying that I hadn't heard before, right? I knew all of the things that I had to do. And I just remember thinking to myself, there is no reason I cannot be on that stage giving this exact speech or maybe even a better one, to be perfectly honest. Like I'm in my mind just like, oh my gosh, I could be doing this. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not actually pushing myself? I'm spending the time, but like, what am I actually doing with the time? Like, I'm like, doing the fluffy stuff that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really count. And so I literally that night went up to my hotel room and made a plan. So I was like, I want these people on my team. They're not on my team yet. I want to recruit them. I want to help sponsor them. I want to build the most amazing community of women on my team. I want to make this a really fun place. I was just going all in. And my business, gosh, I don't even know how long it took. Not quite 2 years after that, I was in the top less than 1%. And I was so close to that top less than 1%, even after a year, because I believed in it. I started really showing up like that person. Like I stepped into that, they say step into that identity. I stepped into that identity and everyone around me saw it because they could feel the energy and they could, just feel what I was doing and that I believed in it and I was passionate about it. And I actually made that same shift. I was remembering this. It was probably the beginning of this year with my coaching business. I had reached kind of a lull. I had reached like a plateau and I'm like, okay, what did I do in my last business that could get me over this in the same sort of way? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the same thing. It's like rinse and repeat. I get to be re-energized in my business. I get to take people along on the journey with me. I get to create an offer that is really exciting to me and make sure that other people see the value in it. It's literally the same idea, same thing. And so that's what I did. And then that's when I had my first 5-figure day this summer, where it was just mind blowing to me. I'm like, how does this even happen? Like this, and again, that's some of that is that money mindset piece coming in that I still get to work on like everyone else. But I think it's just really stepping into that identity that I had allowed myself to get really comfortable in. And I knew that in order to get to the next level, I needed to make myself uncomfortable by doing either something that made me really uncomfortable or even just acting like that next level version of me that I wasn't quite there yet, but I knew I was so close and I wanted to be.
That's funny you say that because I'm listening to you talk and I kind of did the same thing because I was also part of a network marketing company and I also, got to the top of one of the top levels, not the top, but and it was true. I jumped into that identity, right? And I was being before I got there, right? And I don't know if it's because like at the time when I was doing, wow, this is a while ago, like 2011. So at the time, we just went out more, right? We went out more, you dress up, you put makeup on, you dressed the part, right? And so I was dressing the part for this network marketing gig and whatever. But I find that, when we're behind our computers, sitting at our desk, we kind of and not that there's anything wrong with that, because even if I had $1 million on my desk right now, I would still dress the same way because I'm just a casual person, right? Like I love wearing
I am too.
my comfy clothes, and I love, my do up and all that good stuff. But that being said, it doesn't matter. Like how would you show up if you had, whatever that number is? It can be $1 million or $100,000 in your bank account. Would you show up like that person? Are you showing up like that person now? Now, it doesn't have to be like every component of that person, because I was having a conversation with, I forget who the other day, and we were talking about this. Oh, Raimonda. And she said, there are things that you don't know. You just don't know what that looks like when you are at that level that you want to get to. There are things you just don't know yet. So it's allowing yourselves to be the professional CEO of the business, the amazing and beautiful business that you have now, right? Moving toward that goal and loving every single moment of it and every phase, because at the end of the day, when we look back on the journeys of where we started and where we are now and every step in between, they are milestones, right? And so we should have fun at every level and all the way through up to the is there a finish line? I don't even know if there's a finish line.
Right.
I hope
It's
that
always
makes
a
sense
journey.
what I'm talking about.
No, I get it. And I love that you did that too, because I do think it's so powerful. And that goes back to that mindset piece, I feel like too. And I love how you said, dressing like and acting like and really behaving like that person. The other thing that I remembered when you started talking about that is I actually set up systems for a team that I didn't even have yet. So when I was like, well, I'm going to have a giant team. So I need to go ahead and write down everything that I need to do for onboarding. I need to make a Calendly link. And that's one of the things that I just started showing up online. Like I was this big leader. Like I had this giant team. I'm like, me and my team, it was like a team of 2. I'm like, me and my team had a power hour tonight. It was so fun, and I was talking about it and everyone's like, well, I want to be in that power hour. It's so fun. And, and then I did that with my team. So I worked my power hours. We hopped on Zoom calls and my team hopped on too. And then slowly my team went from 2 to 4 to 6, and it just started naturally growing. But I was putting those systems in place very early on for a big team. And I mean, I'm just getting into the world of manifesting, but maybe I manifested it. Like I was manifesting it. I was doing the actions as though I was that person. And then the team came. And so very similar with my business this summer. So I launched a mastermind in July. And when I was talking with my coach, she was talking to me about what systems I had in place to automate onboarding my mastermind members. And I was like, well, I'm only going to have 5 or 10. I don't really need systems in place. And then I like caught myself and I could like feel her eyes, like, into my skull. And I'm like, okay, yes, I know. Because if I'm putting it out into the universe that I don't need systems, then I'm not going to need systems. But if I go ahead and I write, type everything out and get everything automated, then it's all set up and ready to go. So I definitely think that there are those little baby pieces. And yeah, you don't know what you don't know also. So there are things, that I'm sure will come up in my mastermind that I don't have automated or I don't have planned or whatnot. But yeah, if you can, set up some sort of a system or automation for you, one, that'll save you time. But two, I think you're putting it out there into the universe that you're bringing it all in. You're drawing in all the abundance of clients and whatnot. So yeah, why not? Why not do that now?
Why not? Why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we have nothing to lose anyway.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And that's another thing that I kept telling myself in my network marketing company, especially. I'm like, why not? What's the worst that's going to happen? Someone's going to tell me no, they don't want to try my product, or no, they don't want to join my team. Like, okay.
Whatever.
And
I know.
yeah.
What do you have to lose?
Exactly.
You know what we used to say? My friend and I, we used to say care factor 0.
Ooh, I like that. I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Just some will, some won't. So
Yep.
what? Right?
Yep. That's another one.
And it's the same with your business. Some will, some won't. So what? It doesn't matter, right? It's not for everybody. And that's,
and you don't want it to be for everyone. And that's
No.
another thing that I've learned after working with people, especially, different, not everyone is for you. Some people you just got to bless and release and let go. And that is a huge reason for being really genuine in what you're putting out into the world, and really showing up as you, not taking someone else's vibe or their content or whatnot, because you don't want to attract the same people that everyone else is attracting. You want to attract your people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. So how were you able to, it's funny because I'm reading these questions and I'm like, I see myself in this too. Cause I also, I was a photographer, then I dove right into network marketing. And then I kind of refound myself after that. But and again, me too, like nothing bad to say about network marketing. I think it's great if you are if it's meant to be a season for you, which it was for us, or if you are meant to do network marketing, like it can really, like I have some friends that are in it they're making bank.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I got some friends like that too. Absolutely.
Yeah. But how were you able to pivot from network marketing to podcasting and business coaching?
Yeah. So a big piece of that is, like I just mentioned, showing up really genuinely. So I took people on the journey with me all along on social media, especially, and on my email list and in conversations. And I don't think it was ever really a surprise to people that, yes, I loved my product, but I loved coaching and I love my team more. So I was already doing team retreats and I was shouting out my team members, and I was offering, I don't even remember what I called it, but like a leadership circle of my top leaders. And we would do basically coaching calls, and everyone on my team got a coaching call if they wanted it. And I was basically already doing that. And then I started getting messages from women on other teams, or women not even selling our products who were selling other products. And they were like, what are you doing? Because I never see you showing up salesy or spammy, and your team is exploding. Like, what's happening? Tell us all your secrets. And so I just shared. And I was in a mastermind at the time, and they were really encouraging us to do something that was our own. And so I started a free group first. I called it the Social Selling Sisterhood. I think I called it the Social Selling Sisterhood Squad or something. I really like alliteration. If you ever look at my stuff, I love the alliteration. So I started that in January 2020. And then in June 2020, I started my podcast, which was first called the Social Selling Sisterhood. And so I was creating content specifically for network marketers. Then that fall, I created a planner and tracker, which was essentially a planner and tracker that I created for my team. And then I just, started selling it for everyone and started a membership for women in network marketing where I was training and teaching things, yada, yada. But then I started getting people joining it who were not in network marketing, who had a crafting business, who were online tutors. And so I started creating content that would work for network marketing and non-network marketing businesses, which is a lot of the same content. Like there's some differences for sure, but a lot of the same content. And so anyway, it was just a very natural pivot over time. And then I still work with some network marketers for sure. Some of them have been my clients from day one, but I now have broadened my umbrella and broadened my scope, especially after I have worked with, a variety of different, I don't know, what do you call it, industries. And now I have my mastermind. I do have a productivity membership as well. That's like my low ticket offer, but I have a mastermind and I love working with women who, are building their own full-time business, their own full-time offer. The women in network marketing that I still work with closely are the women hoping and who are already at leadership levels. So that's kind of cool. I really love diving into that because I do think that's a whole other skill set in network marketing than just building your business in the first few levels. But really, it's been a really natural progression over time. And so then I rebranded my podcast about a year and a half ago now. It's the Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast because I love all things Disney. I closely tie in a lot of Disney lessons in my content too. So that's really fun. So yeah, I did it from listening to what people were asking me, from making sure that I was sharing my story along the way, and also making sure that what I was promoting was never, I won't say never, was 90% of the time not the product that I was selling. It was me. And so people fell in love with my personal brands, my values, things like that. So I think that would be my biggest tip. And I still encourage everyone that I work with, focus on your personal brand. That way, in a year, 2 years, 5 years, if you decide to not do whatever it is that you do and switch to something else, your people will come with you. And that's what's happened with me with all my pivots along the way. And it's been really cool to see that. So I know that it works.
Yeah. Also, like that may happen, like, you know, we went from network marketing to the business that we do now. But whatever, like, I mean, even when I kind of said, okay, I'm not doing network marketing anymore. And I went back to photography and it kind of bounced around from there. Like the road just opened new doors. And
Yep.
so at whatever you're doing, if there's a chance that it might change along the way, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that I think allowing yourself and letting yourself go in the direction of, you never know when a door is going to open up for you.
Yeah.
And I think that it's being open to, receiving the
Mm,
opportunity or whatever, because there could be something hidden behind there that you have no
yeah.
idea, that opens up something new for you or whatever. Like there's
Yeah.
just, that can happen so fast too. But I think that, when you're in flow and everything makes sense and everything is aligned, if the doors open up for different things or different opportunities or people, it's just a natural progression, and it
Yeah.
it it flows nicely into that space of who you were meant to become in the first place. So it's really cool.
Mm, yeah. I love that you said that about flow and alignment because that's really how I knew it was time for my network marketing journey to like come to an end. Was I was just feeling these really huge blocks, whether it was like resentment for having to show up for something, or hated that my company came out with some new rule, or, whatever. And I'm like, this attitude, like, this is not me. And it was so funny. I was working with a coach at the time and she didn't really say anything. We talked through it, whatever. And then probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 weeks later, I was like, okay, I've decided like this, like I'm gonna start coaching this. And she was like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for you to say that. She's like, I could just see the wheels turning and you processing all of this and coming up to with this energy. And I mean, it was hard. Like it's hard when you are closing one of those doors and leaving something that's really good to pursue something that could be really great. And it's scary, especially when you build up a team and a community and people you love and you feel like you're going to let them down. Um, but trust your gut, trust that flow and that alignment.
Yes.
You know, and again, if it doesn't work out, so what? Like, are you gonna die? No. you
No, I
you
know.
can admit your mistakes, you can try something out, and so just being open to that failure just in case, but also being open to the what if, like, what if
Hmm.
it does work out? What could that really look like? Because that could be really cool.
Yeah, 1000%. I
Yeah.
know. And so anyway, so that was all of it. It was so good. And I know we could keep going on about we could probably talk for another few hours about this stuff. I think at the end of the day, inspiring people to just have an open heart and move into the
Mhm.
direction of what feels aligned with
Yeah.
systems and all that good stuff to go along with it. Right?
Well, yeah, I
Productivity and
mean,
systems and strategies.
you need the masculine with the feminine. You need both of them. You
Yeah.
need to go with
Yes.
your gut and what your intuition, what you want to do. But you need to have time to do it all.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
and for God's sakes, don't overthink things. If something feels right, just listen.
yeah, really,
Right?
because you're gonna look back and be like, man, I should have quit that like 2 years ago.
Yes. Right?
Yep.
Exactly. Now we could get into the whole talk about how, I stayed stuck in network marketing for way too long, but that's okay because I am here today because of the journey that I've had. So it's
Yeah,
all good. Yeah.
yeah, I love it.
Anywho, yeah.
Mhm.
Anywho, so you have the daily business to-do list. That is something that is available for everybody to download now. So what is that?
Yeah. So, as I kind of mentioned that I had that planner and tracker, and over the years, I have just really compiled a list of, okay, excuse me, if you have an hour to work your business or 2 hour to work your business, what should you be doing? Ooh,
Bless you. You need a sip of water.
excuse me.
Don't you hate it when that happens? You're like, oh no. That happened to me one time when I was photographing a wedding ceremony. And I don't know if I drank water and it went in the wrong hole. And I was like having a coughing fit and I was trying to hide behind a tree and it was outside. And I was like, as if this is happening right now.
Trying to hold it and your face is all red and you're like snapping photos. Oh, that would be
Yeah,
awful. Yeah, it would be
yeah.
horrible. Yeah, sorry, excuse me about that. But yeah, no, it's just a really easy downloadable checklist that you can print out, have it next to your computer for those days where you mentioned like you're like, okay, squirrel brain, what do I need to do today? You can just pull it out. And there's some helpful tips and tricks on there too for you.
I don't know. So I'm gonna have to download for that in the show notes for everybody. So Lindsay, we've talked a lot about many different things, but how can we work with you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I am Lindsay Dollinger on all the platforms. So you can find me over on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, literally Lindsay Dollinger, all the place. I should be the only one. If there is another one, I have been hacked. I know Julie and I both got cloned the same day in Facebook land a couple weeks ago, but we
Oh,
are
you
not
got
tagging
cloned
you.
too?
Yeah, with that crypto post. The exact same
Oh
person
my
I think who
God.
did
I
yours.
think it is. I think it's still happening for me. Someone messaged me like a few days ago. I'm like,
Oh
oh
no.
no, please shut it down.
Gosh, oh, I haven't heard any messages lately, but man, I got so many messages in my inbox. I'm like, no, people, I am not asking you to do crypto. Thank you, though. But anyway, yeah, Lindsay Dollinger, all the places. You can find out ways to work with me, lindsay.dollinger.com. And my podcast is the Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast. I would love for you to tune in and let me know what you think.
That's amazing. And you can get a feel for the awesome Lindsay and her vibe and all the things that she does. And of course, they can probably also find all the info on your website, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. It's been so great talking to you again. I'm sure we'll talk again soon because now I want to be on your podcast. I don't even know if you
Yes,
have guests on your podcast, but I'm like,
I
okay, I
do.
want to
Yeah.
be on the Pixie Dust podcast.
Yeah, girl, you're going to be on there for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you, Julie. This was great.
You're welcome. And if you are listening to this, I will talk to you in the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Julie's included a link in the shows to make it nice and easy for you. And if you want to create a beautiful, profitable business of your own, make sure to go unlock your access to Julie's 6 must-have resources for female entrepreneurs. These resources will help you build and grow your business with simplicity and ease. You can find them at juliecbutler.com/freebie vault. We'll see you in the next episode.